What's going on, Mass Gang?
Hey guys.
My name is Brian. For those of you who do not know,
Oops.
Yes.
My bad, I'm Alec.
As you can tell, it's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, I think the last time was maybe 2 months ago.
For the sit down?
Yeah. When you talk about the fat shaming.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe not that long, but really and truly we haven't done them as often as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that has rung true is that we've had the sit downs whenever it is that something personally has come up for us.
Yeah.
And those things kind of spur whatever our conversation is going to be, because we know that there's so many people out there that also relate to the same struggles that we do. And even if you don't, then it's one of those things where as long as you have the time to hear us out, then we are willing to share our opinions with you guys.
Facts.
Yeah. So recently, this week actually, we had our first guest appearance on a podcast with the Queer Family Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big up to Jamie from the Queer Family Podcast.
Yes. Hey, Jamie.
But one of the things that she had asked us in that interview was what were our feelings around all of the legislation that is now coming into place, particularly here in Florida, where it is that we're living. How are we managing? And I feel like that's such a heavy question to answer because it is so loaded in this day and age, especially for us as people who are minorities in so many senses of the word, especially when it comes to us having a family that is headed by a same gender loving couple.
Facts. Yeah, it's kind of scary to have been to be from Florida, and all of the bills that they are enacting now touches on every aspect of my life. Being black, being gay, and being married to an immigrant. So it's really scary for me to see exactly where this state is going, because this is all I know. So to see it, it's unreal, and it's shocking and a little disgusting to me.
I mean, so just to give everybody who may not know just a little bit of a framework to kind of work off of, in 2023 alone, there's more than 520 discriminatory bills that have been filed that seemingly will affect the LGBTQ plus community. 520. Yeah. We're 5 months in. And most recently, in the state of Florida, there are more bills that have been passed in just
the last week.
Yeah, just the last week than have been passed in the last 7 years that seem to be directly aimed at our community.
Yeah. He's coming guns a-blazing, and I don't understand where this is coming from, but there's just so much. Like, even last year, they enacted the Don't Say Gay bill, and that affected our family because BJ's teacher told us that the following year, which would be this year, he wouldn't be able to bring projects that included us as a family.
Yeah, because last year he had a project and it was supposed to include a picture of his family and talk about the culture of his family. And he was so proud to be able for us three to take a picture and him cut it out and put it there. Of course, they didn't tell him that he couldn't use it that time, but they had to notify us that
this would not fly.
Yeah.
Going forward. And even with that, like, the teachers who are a part of our community aren't able to show their loved ones. Like, our teachers will have, pictures of their family on the desk. If they're of a LGBTQ plus or a queer relationship, they cannot do it anymore.
And not only that, I mean, even when it comes to gender identity too, they're not allowed to whether refer to themselves, parents, anybody outside of he or she.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're really coming for it at every single angle and every step. And when we say they, he.
Yeah.
But we'll just have to be like he or
he who must not be named. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we want to go through some of these things that have been passed recently, and also to let you know some of the things that we have seen happen in Florida, what our experience has been like, and what do we think that this holds for us in the future.
You want to get started?
You can go ahead.
All right. So the first bill is the expansion of the Don't Say Gay bill, which is the intentional effort to erase the transgender and non-binary people from the curriculum. So Bill HB 1069, it will restrict teaching from kindergarten, pre-K to 8th grade about gender identity, gay, straight, trans, non-binary. They're completely taking that out of the curriculum. I don't necessarily agree with this because these kids know what it is anyway. And I feel like the best way for them to grow up in life and not make certain mistakes is to learn from an early age. These children are very resistant. Like, even with BJ and his friends, they are so accepting of our union. They actually support us more than adults do, which is crazy. Like, there's no hatred. There's no hidden agenda from our community with these kids. They actually support us. And they support each other. Like, there's kids in BJ's grade that are openly gay and way more confident and comfortable with themselves at this young age than I was. Honestly, probably more comfortable than I am now. You know what I mean? So this bill here, it just doesn't make sense to me.
And I mean, even if you were to go back and look at stats of what the suicide rate is of different groups within not just the US, but the society on a whole, the suicide rate for those who identify as LGBTQ+ is one of the highest of any group that you can find.
Yeah.
And I only imagine that in imposing something like this, people might think that they are saving our next generation, but it's gonna affect them in other ways that I don't feel like these bills are accounting for. A lot of these bills seem very short-sighted for me, and even so, like, you know that this is just a first step.
Yeah.
So it's us now, and it's Florida now, but many of these states need is just for one state to put these things in motion and for it to pass, and then it's gonna be like a domino effect.
Yeah.
So everybody can laugh and say it's the Republic of Florida, and Florida is separate and apart, but Florida is just the example.
Yeah.
Florida is just the example.
There's so many of these states that actually are on par with what Florida is doing. Like, they love to see it, and it's really scary because we are taking 10 steps back. We've come so far only to be regressing instead of progressing.
Another one of them is extreme gender affirming care ban. This in particular, I know that initially it started with children, and to some extent I do agree with being able to restrict the process of having the gender affirming care when it comes to like going to the extent of like surgeries or even when it comes to like hormone therapy or anything like that, because I do believe that especially in a child's formative years, you may feel one way today and then tomorrow you feel a little bit different. So I agree that there should be some boundaries, but I feel like you should also include counseling. You should also have the option to have that child move through the stages so that they know when it is that they reach an age to make the decision for themselves. That yes, this is something I want to do, and this is something that I need to do to feel like who I truly am, or not.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I don't. There's sick people in the world, as we know, and I feel like if we gave people the clear range to do whatever it is that they want, I feel like people would transition their kids without their permission. You know, like I've just conversations that I've heard on the plane where people would do just some really sick things. So I understand wanting to limit it for children, but I feel like adults should have full range to do whatever it is that they want with their bodies. And I feel like taking that away, even with the abortion law, like taking away a human's rights it goes against our Constitution.
And to police their body, essentially.
That is disgusting to me. Like, you're taking away care from people who need this. Like, this isn't something. This is a need. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I get worked up thinking about it because it's just not fair. Like, it's not fair. This is not a dictatorship, but it seems like that's the route that we're headed in.
And I mean, why for us it's such a personal issue too is because we have friends that identify as trans. So we have had the opportunity to hear their stories and understand a little bit better where their mind is and their emotions going through the different stages of the process. and how much satisfaction they get from finally being affirmed in their true gender. So to know that people our age, people that we interact with, because this started with children, but it's now going to include everybody.
Yep.
So it's children and adults alike, where it is that somebody has the freedom to decide whether or not they feel comfortable progressing you along that journey, and whichever healthcare institution can actually be sued for adhering to administering whatever treatment for gender affirming care.
It's not even just being sued. They can lose their license, their entire practice, like everything that they went to school for can be down the drain in a matter of a second for doing the right thing.
So at this point, like, you are also forcing the hands of allies or potential allies, people who didn't necessarily, you have people on all ends of the spectrum. We know you're going to have people that don't support, people that fully support, people that are indifferent in the middle. But now you're making it so hard for anybody to want to be on the support side of the fence.
Yeah.
You know? And for anybody to say that these things aren't direct attacks on the community.
How do you not see it?
Yeah. Because again, it started with just our community. And I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we see where it is that it has now extended past that. And that's just phase 2 of the plan. That's just phase 2. What else do you have there?
Okay, so the AntiTrans Bathroom bill, that was also passed, where they're now criminalizing transgender people for using their correct restroom. So if you are, like Sasha Colby said it best, like, she's a full woman, but she can no longer go into a bathroom that is the correct bathroom for her because she can be arrested and sent to jail for a very long time. That is beyond me too.
And the thing is too is that they're also eradicating any kind of solution too, because they'll have unisex bathrooms and they're also trying to ban the unisex bathrooms. So it's one thing if it is that you said, okay, well, which it still isn't okay for somebody who is affirmed in that gender to say you can't use, if you're a trans woman, you can't use the female's bathroom, or a trans man can't use the male's bathroom. However, people also aren't comfortable with the reverse. So it's like, what do you expect the person to do? And no solution is being given. So in taking out all the solutions, can't go in the male, can't go in the female, and you're also trying to get rid of unisex bathrooms. Whichever one of those things that you support or aren't comfortable with, what would be the solution? So my thing is if you're going to take away something, you should be giving a solution as well. And I feel like that's where it is that the ball is also being dropped. There's absolutely no provision.
I don't think that they want a provision. I genuinely feel like they just want to get rid of us, which doesn't make sense because we're not going anywhere. There was gay people back in the 20s, dated way back when. We've always been here. We're just proud now. You know what I mean? So you'll never get rid of us. So you're going to have to make some kind of provision at some point. I think this is truly going to come back and bite them in the butt, but time will tell, I guess.
And the thing, what really is scary though, is the fact that many of us probably will sit here and be like, oh, he who shall not be named would never become president, or this would be the last of
It's a
him.
Possibility.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen before.
And I feel like he's worse than who was there before. So way worse than who was there before. I would take him over Baltimore
right now.
Like, he is so hateful. He is so hateful. These bills don't just affect gays, trans, blacks. It encompasses everybody: Mexican, Cuban, Jewish, all of these people, Venezuelans. Like, the Spanish community is really under attack too, because they're, especially South Florida, Cubans made up for 90% of the immigrants who came over here. Immigrants, we'll talk about that later, but this man is dangerous. So dangerous.
For me, it's like, we keep referring to the man though, but I feel like none of these things can pass a certain level without a certain degree of support. So clearly, he's not alone.
So, I agree with that too.
Mm-hmm.
However, he was not this rogue when he was running.
Yeah.
And I think he's pissed off a lot of his supporters as well. Because just talking to my coworkers yesterday, like, they put him in office and they're shocked at the things that he's doing because it seems like there's a pissing match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's whose dick is the biggest kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, excuse my vulgar expression, but that's exactly what it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a power trip. He has some control and he doesn't know how to act. So I don't necessarily know that he would make it as like become a president because he's really, really pissed off a lot of people. People hate Florida.
I mean, as I say,
It's possible.
Yeah, I just wouldn't list it out because we have seen it's been tried and tested. Like that night, me being in Jamaica, like seeing the results, I was in shock a couple of years ago. You know, because I just didn't think that it would ever happen.
I was in shock too, but I also that man had a lot of support. So I was in shock, but I couldn't be too surprised. But this one, now that this would, my jaw would be on the floor if that would happen.
Well, I mean, is there wood to knock on?
I don't know.
Hopefully, we don't even have to contend with that because, to be quite honest, for one, us being a newly married couple who has gone through so many challenges just to be where it is that we are now, the whole thought and intent would be that we'd be able to enjoy it. A month after we got married, exactly a month after we got married last year in 2022, sorry, Brian ended up in the hospital. So even to think that in him getting care and me being there, asserting myself as his husband, to think that somebody would have the option to say, I don't feel comfortable serving a gay couple, and to put his life at risk, that's essentially what these bills are giving people the freedom to do.
Yeah.
And as we said, this is just the first stage. For me, being an immigrant coming from Jamaica, I thought that I was coming into a better situation when it came to just being proud of who I am and living my life in true freedom, you know? And it's only been literally a year. This month makes it a year. And I feel like half the time that I've been here, it has been a conversation or a fight of whether or not we can still even live in the state that we're in, that we have our license of marriage for, you know? Where I'm coming from, we have certain laws against just the act itself. But even when you go through like healthcare and anything like that, it doesn't single out people the way that this does. And that's scary because even when they're considering change before it was signed into law or coded with the Marriage Act, I didn't think that in 2023 that we would even be
Here
considering something like that.
Yeah.
You know? But as we said, this is the start because now in the last week, we've heard new developments when it comes to immigration.
Yeah. So he has enacted several different laws for immigrants as well. And this affects both immigrants with status and without status. So with status is somebody who has filed their paperwork, they just haven't necessarily heard back yet, or their case is pending. But for example, any employer in the state of Florida that has over 25 employees has to sign up for some E-Verify program, which shows the status of
whoever it is that they have working with them.
It wiped out several companies because immigrants actually kind of run like they help run the economy because they do the jobs that us spoiled Americans don't necessarily want to do. So there's videos, there's news reports that construction sites are completely empty.
Like I saw a video on Instagram and the supervisor was showing the site, and he was saying out of his 100-member team, he had 4 people. Well, he said gringos, but he has 4 people that would have been approved to work. So the day that everything was put in place, when you look the next day, you just saw things on the floor because they just had to leave immediately. Like everybody is now looking for another option.
Yeah.
People in the hotel industry.
Yep.
In droves.
In droves.
Cleaning
departments, like all of those people have farmers. Like I just read an article where there's a farmer who has 24 less than 25 people. So he said he's okay, but the people, they're afraid to even come to work because they don't know if ICE is going to be there to pick them up. So all of their farmer friends who had over 25 people, nobody to help farm. They're going to lose half of their farm because they don't have the people to grow the crops and do whatever it is that they need to do. So this is really going to hurt our economy.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that when it comes to immigration, I get the debate where people would say we need to lock down on illegal immigration though. So something like that, I get that part of the debate. However, even if somebody is to go the legal route these days, the delays are so expansive now and so lengthy as opposed to what it was before. For example, I would be considered a documented immigrant, right? However, in me coming over, getting married, having done that through the K-1 visa process, filing my adjustment of status, which is so that I can be considered a legal resident here, I would have also had to apply for a travel permit and a work permit. When you look online and all indication from the USCIS site, it says 2 to 4 months. 4 months being what the max should be for me to be able to finally get a work permit to legally work. This is what? This is now month 9, still waiting, you know? So just to give you an example, so luckily I'm married and I'm in a situation where I have somebody else that I can lean on for the time period that I can't work. For somebody who comes over here, let's say on the basis of asylum, and they're applying and depending on that same 2 to 4 month period to be able to get a work permit so that they can just live day to day. If you had to take care of yourself from wherever it is that you're coming from on 2 months, that's hard in itself. When you think of the cost of living, the change in the cost of living from where it is that you're coming from to here being in the US, particularly when it comes to housing and just regular services. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? You know? Like, those are the kinds of things that I think about because for us, it hasn't been easy.
I mean, taking care of 3, and I consider my son grown because he's my size. He eat just like we do. So it's like taking care of 3 grown men on one salary is not easy. It's very hard. I'm blessed to say that I've been able to do it. It's been a struggle a little bit here and there, but I mean, I've made it happen. People who don't have what I have, what do they do? Like, what is it? What do they do?
And for me, it now crosses a border to inhumane because even they have now the one about hospitals, where it is that hospitals are supposed to probe to make sure before they administer any kind of emergency care even.
It's now on their intake form. They have to specify your immigration status. Disgusting. That makes no sense to me. What if they're here traveling and they get into a car accident? You're going to refuse services to somebody who is in a life-threatening situation? Like, they cannot help you? How is this okay? How is this okay? And how does everybody in the house allow this how do you sign this? 86 people signed off on these bills. 86 people.
And then, I mean, there's just so many blurred lines because even for the people that are here already doing things, you know, it's like You're afraid to travel. You're afraid to drive on your own, like, country's driver's license, because if you're ever to get caught doing something like that, who is to know what's going to happen?
That's the other thing. Like, if you say you are undocumented or without status and you have a driver's license from the state of Georgia and you drive in Florida, you get pulled over, that license is no longer valid. So you can go to jail for driving without a license, which will then start the deportation process. Not fair at all. That's not fair. So even if I'm traveling with somebody who is undocumented, this was the first part of the bill. They actually changed it, which I'm happy. But if I were to say travel with Alec, for example, if he didn't have a status and they pulled me over and they find out he doesn't have a status, I face criminal charges as well. So they're trying to just get everybody, they're trying to make it hard for any immigrant that is here, to make them hard to want to help.
But, you know, I can't even say that they're trying to get anybody, because to be quite honest, like, in them stopping people now, on what grounds are they going to stop somebody? It promotes racial profiling as well.
Damn. Yeah.
Because I feel like when people think about immigrants, they're thinking about people of color.
Yeah.
Whether it be Hispanic, Latinx, African American, Black people, like, it's gonna promote even more racial inequality. And I mean, even when you look at the fact that you're removing certain history from being taught in schools here in Florida now too, it again, we tell you it's a scale. It starts maybe heavily with the LGBTQ plus community. Now we see them going after immigrants. What is the next step? And for us, or let me not say us, because I can't, but those of you who do have the power to make the decision on who it is that's representing you in these bigger spaces, you also have to think about what is going to be next in the future. Those are the kinds of things that you have to have at the forefront of your mind when you're making your decision present day, is how that decision today may be 2 years down the line. Because that's exactly where I see it going, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just me. I don't have the power yet, so...
It's coming, baby. It's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially why we don't know if Florida is the place for us to stay. Because I don't feel welcome here, and this is where I was born and raised.
And I mean, the fact that you're born here, though, like, how tough is that for you to... Like, how tough of a pill is that for you to swallow?
It's very tough, because my entire family is here. Not that I'm extremely close with them, but everything I know is here. So to feel like I cannot stay here because of the person that I am, because I'm Black, I'm gay, and my husband is an immigrant, like, I just checked all the boxes as to why I need to get the hell out of the state, because they don't want me here. I don't feel comfortable. Even with, like, Alec driving to Walmart, which is 2 minutes up the street, I don't feel comfortable. I'm nervous. Because God forbid somebody hits him. He doesn't even have to hit somebody. Somebody hits him. The police come, and then it's a whole thing. I don't want that to happen for him. So I don't feel safe here.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, for me, it's just unfathomable, because I didn't see this happening within a year of me being here, you know? I think that once I got here last May, that for us, it was just like, yes, everything is going to be great. Everything is going to be smooth sailing. We've been through all the big obstacles that we would have been able to go through, like, preventing us from being together. I don't think that we thought that we would still have this fight even after. And it makes it even harder because we have a child involved, because even if we do decide that we want to move, to think about uprooting him from what he knows, and you know, it feels almost a little bit selfish, because it's a decision because we don't feel comfortable, you know. He might not necessarily feel that way too, but he is affected.
He is highly affected.
He is affected, but he just might not be able to wrap his mind around all the avenues that it actually does affect.
I mean, being a kid, he shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, kids need to be kids, but I don't know, man. What do you do in a situation like that?
Yeah, it really is tough. It really is tough. And it's a sad reality to have to even think about accepting. But it is what it is, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us where we should move.
Yeah.
Drop some suggestions in the comments, please.
Georgia's out of the question, though, because I feel like there's two places where I feel are heading in the same direction as Florida, and I feel like Texas is right behind us, and I feel like Georgia has the possibility of following suit too. So those are the two places that I don't think I would want to go. But yeah, I'm open to other suggestions.
Yeah, so for those of you who live in different states, and you know what the landscape is like for, gay Black immigrants, then feel free to drop it in the comments below. Guys, thank you for sitting in, listen to us
rant. Yeah.
For those who aren't living here in the US, we hope that this was able to inform you a little bit of what's going on here in Florida. But yeah, I mean, it's an odd video to like, but if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Please share the video with somebody that you think could benefit from the conversation that we had today. Please comment below. Let us know what your comments are like, if it's comments of support and those suggestions of where we need to go.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, do what?
Subscribe.
All right, guys.